everybody, and thanks for joining Stamp with Tracy for tonight's Wow Wednesday. Tonight we are going to concentrate on a free item from the Celebration catalog. This item can be found on page 6 and 7, and it is called the Dainty Flowers 12 by 12 Designer Series paper. Again, this is in our Celebration catalog, and this is something you can get free with a $50 purchase. I think this is one of the most valuable products in the Celebration catalog. This paper is so pretty, and you'll see tonight just how many cards I'm going to produce with just using 3 sheets of this Designer Series paper. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. Now, one of the great things about this is that it also coordinates with our Dainty Delights bundle, which you can find on page 55 of our current mini catalog. Now, I will tell you that I did just hear today, at the time of taping this video, that the dies are currently on low inventory. Now, remember, with their mini catalogs, there really isn't enough time for them to order more product and get it in before the catalog ends. So it's always important to make sure that you get your orders in as early as possible for things that are in our catalog that are mini catalogs or celebrations, because they're just, a lot of it is while supplies last. Now, when it comes to the stamps that Stampin' Up! Makes themselves, they will reproduce more of those. But the dies and things that come from other countries, a lot of times we can't get them produced and delivered in time before this catalog ends. For many reasons. At the time of the year, if it's coming from China, as the Chinese New Year, they shut down for a very long period of time in their factories. Other things are we're still dealing with slower transportation over the past several years, and it still hasn't really improved that much when it comes to shipping product. So if this is something that you're interested in, I would highly recommend in ordering it soon, especially if you want to get the bundle of the Dainty Delight with the stamps and the dies, because the dies are definitely on low inventory at this point, and I don't think they'll be in before the mini catalog ends. So let's start off by just showing you this beautiful Designer Series paper. So I think it's absolutely gorgeous, and again, it is called Dainty Flowers. It's 12 by 12, and you get 12 sheets, and the colors are Blushing Bride, Crushed Curry, Fresh Freesia, Mossy Meadow, Old Olive, and Rich Razzleberry, and Starry Sky. Now, I do need to tell you that I did not bring all of my colors and all of my papers, and I am traveling. So I had to make do and did substitute a few other colors that I thought looked fantastic with it anyway. But they are the perfectly matching colors to go along with this Designer Series paper. So this is the first page, and then there's this beautiful watercolor look for the background on that. And then there's this page, and I wanted to show this to you specifically. This one here, I actually have cut this down, and we'll be making cards from it tonight, and I will tell you a little bit more about that. And there's the back side of that. Some beautiful little imagery along with some watercolor look in the background. And here are some beautiful greens, Fresh Freesia. Some more of the Fresh Freesia. And on the back of that is the Starry Sky. What is the Fresh Freesia and Starry Sky are currently both the 2022-24 in colors. I just think this paper is so pretty. And there's the Blushing Bride with imprints on it. And then the piece that I'm using tonight, I'm actually using these 2 pieces. And I've already cut up one of these. And what I did was I just cut this at 5 inches, put it in my cutter and measured 5 inches, and it gave me right to the top of the flowers. Now, another suggestion I could say is maybe cut it at 5.5 or cut it at 6, and then you could trim off the bottom, and it gives you more room for sayings and stuff at the top. So my recommendation would probably be to go ahead and cut it at 6 inches, and then you can take the inch or 3/4 of an inch off of the bottom to make it your top layer for your card. And you'll see what I mean when I show you those cards. So you're going to get 6 cards out of this by cutting it in half and then cutting the flowers in three cards. Now the other piece is this oval sheet. Now this oval sheet consists of 2 of these ovals. Now I've already cut it up and I cut up both pieces, but I left this piece so I could show you. So going down the middle of this is this design. And then it's the ovals again over on this side. So with this one, what I did was I put it in my paper cutter, and on my whole sheet of paper, whoops, sorry about that. I'll get you back lined up here. I slid it in and cut it right at 5 inches. So I lined it up here at the top at 5 inches and I sliced, okay? Then I flipped it around, put the other side in of the paper and cut it at 5. And then I had this long piece that was left in the center, and I cut that in half. So they're 2 6-inch pieces that I'll be sure to be able to do something with. So then I went and I actually cut this, and this is my suggestion to you. You can do it whichever way you like, but I'm going to come in at 4 inches because that gives me a pretty much even distance between each oval. Okay, so now I need to actually cut this down because I want each oval to be 3 3/4 by 5 because it is my top layer and I need to cut a little bit away from it. So since I actually cut it at 4 and I need it to be 3 3/4, I am going to cut 1/8 of an inch off of each side. So with each piece left, I just go in there and cut off 1/8 of an inch. Hope that makes sense to you. Again, you're going to cut this in 5 inches down the side of the designer series paper. Then you're going to cut it by 3 times at 4 inches and then come back and trim 1/8 of an inch off of each side. And to me, that gives you a nice boundary, even boundary right around that oval. So I'm going to show you a lot of cards tonight that I've already made, but what I want to actually teach you tonight is showing you how to make this look kind of vintage. So to make it look vintage, I am going to, again, I didn't bring all of my colors. A true vintage probably would have been nice with a Sahara sand, one of the lighter grays. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank of what it's called, crumb cake, but I didn't bring any of those. So I have to do with what I have. So since one of the colors in here is actually Old Olive, I am going to go ahead and use the Old Olive. And I've just squeezed my lid. Now with our newer pads, you have to be very careful when you do that. Our older pads were made more for doing that. Or you can just add a little bit of the ink refill of Old Olive to the front. Now you also want to watch how much color you get. I want this really watered down. So I always have a paper towel ready. Let me grab it to get some of the ink out of there. And I want to add some more water by squeezing my water painter because I want this to be really, really light. I don't want it to be dark. And I did squeeze quite a bit of ink there. So I want to move that around and get more water in here. So I'm putting my silicone pad underneath of this paper. Now, did you see when I showed you this paper? It actually has a watercolor textured look to it, like our fluid paper. And it's like that on these flower designs. It's absolutely gorgeous. So what I want to do is I want to just take, and on my water painters, I didn't bring my big flat brush, which would have been the easiest one to do this with. So I'm just going to use the medium one. I only brought, like I said, I didn't bring all of my supplies. It's a little bit too much with traveling. And it doesn't have to be filled in completely. So I'm just going across here and giving this just a nice light watercolored look with my old olive and watering it down, not picking up too much of it, and leaving some of the white in there is just fine. Now, when this dries, it is definitely going to dry lighter than what it is right now. And with that wide brush, you could do it so much quicker than what I'm doing it right now. But I definitely want to get that look that it came all the way over to the edge here. So sometimes when I didn't make it, and I'm not worried about that being completely colored in there of the white, but I do want to get my sides colored in. Maybe blend that a little bit more right here. Now, you have to wait for this to dry completely before you can do anything. So I actually have another one already prepared that has dried. And that one I did do a little bit darker. I wanted to show you a little bit of the difference. So I'm going to set this aside along with my ink pad. And I would, since I've got so much water in there, I will wipe that out before I close it. If it's just a little bit of water in there, it doesn't matter. I just close it up. So let me set this aside. So I'm using as a card base, very vanilla, because I changed this to a vintage look. So I didn't want that white. And I have a piece of, again, I didn't have all the colors I needed, so I'm putting Greeny Apple Green here. What I really would have loved to have had was Mossy Meadow, but I have to go with what I have. So I have the Greeny Apple Green, and I'm going to add that to my 8.5 by 5.5 very vanilla card base, and that's just going to give me 1/8 of an inch because I cut that at 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And then I did my old olive 1/8 of an inch smaller, which made that 5 1/4 by 4. And just have 1/8 of an inch going all the way around that. Okay, so as I stated earlier, I did have one that I've already made, and once it dried, I took the speckles from Color and Contour. I'm sure there's many different things that you could have used, and I used that with the old olive ink, but I stamped off each time first because I didn't want it real dark. So you can see how I just have those light speckles all the way through back there. And again, you have to be completely dry before you attempt to do any stamping on here. So now I'm going to add, let me get my silicone mat here because I'm going to go off. I'm going to go ahead and add that, and I'm going to use a lot of adhesive. Because this paper had been wet, I want to make sure that I have it with glue in all the right places. Okay, so now I'm going to layer that on top of the old olive. Whoops. And then we're going to add our sentiment. Now you could stamp with something right in here, but I decided that I was going to go ahead and, excuse me, put mine on a piece of very vanilla cardstock. And this is from another celebration set that you can get. Now the sending support, if I'm not mistaken, and I should have checked that for you, but I think that might be with a $100 value. Sorry, give me a second. No, actually, that is with just a $50. That's great to get a stamp set with just a $50 purchase. So this could be free as well if you spent $50. And if you spent $100, you could get both the designer series paper as well as sending support. And there are just some fantastic sayings in here. And when don't we always need something where we're showing somebody our support and our love because they're going through a rough time? So I absolutely love that. So I'm going to put on my little saying, which I stamped, as I stated, on Very Vanilla. And then I layered it right on top of another piece of Old Olive. And I stamped it with Old Olive ink. And I'm going to come over this way just a little bit, and I'll show you the reason why. I'm going to make myself ribbon by wrapping it around my fingers. And the width of what I want would determine how far I spread away my finger. So I just want this to be just a little bit, and I'm going 3 times around. And then I'm going to snip. And then I'm going to take another little piece and I'm going to tie that. So I lay that down with my finger trying to hold it. And I'm sure there's a better way of doing this, but this is what works the best for me. You just have to be careful and tie that down. And then you get that multicolor look of the bow being multi-layers. And then I have one longer one there, so I'm going to clip that off. And then I'm going to use some glue dots. To put that down here. Now I want that to be right outside of that there. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my glue dot down right there. Oh, it stayed on here. Okay. And there we have our card. And this one says, there are so many ways you might feel right now, but alone, well, it doesn't say but, alone should not be one of them. So again, this is that sending support, and I absolutely love all the sayings in there. So then here's another one that I made, and this one I did very, very light on here. As you can see, the other one is drying lighter already than this one. This is still wet, so I can't do anything with it. And this one I did not stamp with the speckled background, but it still, to me, has that vintage appearance. And this saying, I centered a little bit more, and I cocked my little bow down here on the side. So there are the two that I wanted to show you to get that sort of vintage feel from this. And then I made a bunch more to show you. So there's 2 cards. This is going to be a 3rd card. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 more that I got out of just 3 sheets of paper. So basically, it could be 16 cards from 3 pieces of designer series paper. And if you wanted to cut up this other piece like this, you would get 6 more out of just 4 sheets. So I'm going to show you, this is using the fresh freesia and just leaving the oval by itself. Isn't it gorgeous how you see that texture? Makes it look like it was almost embossed. Hope you can see that on there. It's absolutely gorgeous. And that one was done with the fresh freesia. This one was done with the Orchid Opulence. This one here, and these I did as birthday, wishes for a beautiful birthday. And I used mainly the framed florets saying, which is also currently in this catalog, mini catalog. So there's one I did landscape. Thank you with all my heart. Another one of the birthdays, and this is polished pink, which is also one of our in colors at this time. And I thought it went just great. I didn't have the pretty in pink, which is the color that, or I'm sorry, the blushing bride, which is the color that is exactly the color that's in the designer series paper. So that one is also done. And then another one in the polished pink going portrait. And then that other paper that I showed you, this designer series paper here, where I showed you where I cut this in half and trimmed it down. Here it is with the fresh freesia. And as I had said to you before, that if you wanted to cut it at 6 inches, then you would cut more off of the bottom here, and you would have a lot more room to put different types of greetings at the top. But I found I got it to work at cutting it at just 5 inches in. So this is 5 inches, my next layer is 5 1/4, and my base, card base, is my thick basic white cardstock. Again, that was fresh freesia. Here's this one with polished pink. Here's another one with the orchid opulence. Old olive with deepest sympathy, and another birthday. So all of these cards were done with just 3 pieces of designer series paper. I just think that that paper is worth its weight in gold. And again, these two. So if you're interested, I do have my host code here. This will be my monthly host code for February. If you place an order and your order totals at least $50, you can pick out something free from Celebration. And my suggestion for your first item to get from Celebration, if you haven't done so already, is to definitely get this beautiful designer series paper called Dainty Flowers. And again, it's 12 sheets, and just those 4 sheets that I showed you tonight, 2 of each, the one of the ovals and the one with the flowers on both sides, that I got 16 cards out of those. So thanks a lot for joining me, everyone. And if you're interested in the matching stamp set and bundle with the dies, get that order in as soon as possible. Again, that was called Dainty Delight Bundle, and you'll find it on page 55 of your current mini catalog. And remember that those dies that are absolutely gorgeous are currently on low inventory, so you'll want to get that ordered ASAP. Also, don't forget, Celebration is a great time to order your Paper Pumpkins prepaid subscription and get free merchandise, and it's a fantastic time to join. And by joining at this time, you can get a free mini Stamp and Cut Emboss machine. Here's this beautiful little boho blue that is going to be a new in color. So contact me if any of that interests you at this time, if you need my help for anything, if you have any questions at all. And most of all, don't forget, you must like and comment on today's Well Wednesday to have a chance to win 2 cards from tonight's video. So make sure to like and comment, everyone. Happy stamping.